As trade wars fears grow, Asian economies have a lot to lose in the US-China trade war. Taiwan, South Korea and the East Asian nation among the largest exporters of intermediate goods to China, which then assembles them into finished products to ship to the US. Now, if tariff threatened by the US President Donald Trump results in falling Chinese exports to the US, there will be a knock-on effects for those economies. Let's get the latest now on these so-called trade wars. We cross to Patrick Fok in Hong Kong. Patrick, thank you very much indeed for your time. The trade war between the US and China seems to be intensifying. What's the reaction following the latest pronouncements by President Donald Trump?
Well, if we can talk about the market reaction, perhaps. Markets got off to a bit of a mixed start this morning following some steep losses on Wall Street overnight. But there has been plenty of bargain hunting going on over the course of the session today. Japan's Nikkei 225 was the star performer. It was up about 1.2%, and there were also some solid gains for Seoul, Sydney and Hong Kong as well. Now, Chinese mainland shares did lag the rest of the region. The Shanghai Composite, it did reverse early gains to end up about 0.3%, but clearly some concerns in that market there. And sector-wise, we're also seeing some oil shares advance quite strongly thanks to some upbeat inventory data out of the US, but investors will no doubt be keeping an eye on that OPEC meeting later in the week for further direction. But certainly trade is very much in focus. It's a key theme for this week, and with the negativity that we're hearing out of the US, there's a suggestion that there could be further downside risk in the near term.
Patrick, how will the tensions have a domino effect on world economies, especially developing countries like South Africa?
Well, global trade stands to be affected enormously if these trade wranglings continue to go on, and certainly it seems as though that is going to be the case. We've already seen China and the US slap $50 billion worth of goods with a 25% tariff either way. Now, Donald Trump has said that the US will increase that by $200 billion. He'll put a 10% tariff on another $200 billion worth of goods, and another $200 billion worth of goods on top of that if China decides to retaliate. US officials are saying that China stands to gain, China stands to lose more rather than the US out of this, when you consider that we're talking about $450 billion worth of goods that could be taxed on from the US versus the $130 billion that China imports. That certainly seems as though it could be the case.
Thank you very much indeed for your reporting, Patrick. Patrick Fok there in Hong Kong.